Hey, welcome to this episode of The Soul Trap. Today we're going to do sort of a little bit of an episode, a little bit of an interview, a little bit of research as Brother Kevin and I work on things coming up. But I think what's on all of our mind is the story of Charlie Kirk. What we're being told, what we're not being told, what we're thinking and what we're not thinking. You know, at The Soul Trap, we've always been about trying to connect the dots. Sometimes the dots are easy to connect, sometimes they're not. And to be quite frank, sometimes there are no dots to connect. You know, there's an old saying that says, when a man's good with a hammer, he thinks everything is a nail. I'm a little concerned on one hand that those of us that know clearly that there has been and is even currently an active track record of conspiracy theories, conspiracy cover-ups, deep state, all of the above problems with our government. Those of us that are in the know, we're so in the know that everything we see is a conspiracy. That's problematic. On the other hand, there are those people that they just don't believe that. They don't want to see that. It is what it is, and it's a simpler way to live. I was just talking with a friend of mine, talking with Kevin. This has a very similar feel to me of the COVID issue within the ranks of Christianity. I remember when that hit years ago, there was a deep divide among Christians, not over what should or should not be done, but over the philosophy underlying it. And in a sense, I feel like we're here in that way. You see, Satan doesn't play checkers, he plays chess. And he's always 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 moves ahead. And while we're looking at the left or right hand, many times the left hand is doing its greatest damage. I think this Charlie Kirk assassination can play and will play itself out in a very similar way. And so we come today to this episode with absolutely no conclusions. We don't know what we don't know. All of the investigation has not been completed. In fact, it may be that the government is being very close-lipped about certain things because they want some of these people that were participating, if they were, to come up for air and to catch them. We don't know. There may be more to come out. We do know that there's also been a great deal of misinformation. One of the examples of misinformation is the fact that Charlie Kirk's family was in attendance. That was not the case. One of the facts is that he showed up at the Dairy Queen just a little bit later on. That is not true. That was almost 33 hours, or I think it was like something like over 24 hours later on. In other words, there's a lot of misinformation that is there. But what we do know, some of it makes sense. We know that there is a transgender cult. We do know that there were people that appeared to be aware that this was going to take place. We do know that this young man did not come to this conclusion all on his own, that there is an ideology of hate that permeates our culture, permeates our homes, our schools, our society, our entertainment. We do know that Charlie Kirk was shot. The things we don't know, well, those are the things that are confusing. I'm not saying they're conspiratorial. I'm saying they're confusing. And that's what we want to talk about today. We want to try, and I think what will be probably a multifaceted, multi-part show, is to try to ask some sane questions, and to at least, if we don't come up with some sane answers, keep ourselves from going off the deep end and having some understanding of what takes place. Now, for the sake of time, we're not going to jump into a long diatribe on the timeline of Charlie Kirk. We'll put it in the comment section below. But the timeline is fairly clear in the sense of big picture. We know that Tyler Robinson was seen coming onto campus. We know that he managed to get on top of the building. And for clarity, I've seen some videos. I've seen drone shots. I've seen people there. It's not hard to do. It's really literally a skip, jump, and a hop away, and you were on that roof. We know that he was up there. We know that we can see video of him running and jumping off. There is where it becomes kind of murky. Did he have a rifle in his hand? Did he not have a rifle? Are we 100% certain that the picture of the rifle that we were shown was the actual rifle, or was it a stock picture that the FBI used? We don't know 100% for sure. We're being told that his DNA was on the rifle and on the screwdriver, and that shell bullets were found with engravings. We've seen independent video of a shooter up there and what does appear to be Tyler Robinson jumping off of the building. We do have the picture of him at Dairy Queen. Doesn't seem to be a real issue there. And we do have the communication between him and his trans lover. Therein becomes an issue right there. Some people are saying that it's weird. Others, like some of our team around here that are younger, go, no, that's the way Redditors talk, which may be true. If you've ever watched, what's the show with Sheldon on there that they used to have, Kevin, do you remember? Big Bang Theory. If you want to think about Sheldon, that's a Redditor. That's the way that they talk. Okay, fair enough. Maybe they did talk that way. But then why would he talk? Why would he say, I want to take this to my grave? I intended to take it to my grave, and yet he left a letter for his lover. It almost appears as if they're trying to cover tracks. And then there's the reports of the conversations on Discord, not just afterwards where he admitted to it, but prior to. Some are reporting that there was chatter that people knew something was going to happen to Charlie Kirk. How did they know? Was this a single lone gunman acting alone? If it was, how did he become radicalized? He was not at college that long. How did this middle-class young man end up with a trans lover? So there are a lot of questions, and I don't know that there are a lot of answers, but we're going to try to get at some of those. And if nothing else, we're going to try to get at what we think are the right questions to be asked. Then that's just level one. Level two is what's happening with the Charlie Kirk lore itself. Contrary to what some people think, I believe that Charlie Kirk was a professing, born-again Christian. He gave great testimony to the gospel, was a great help to the cause of Christ. I believe his wife probably was saved as well, too. I know some people have taken her statements that she made in the New York Times interview, that she didn't understand about forgiveness, didn't understand about work salvation. But for a grieving widow that just saw her husband shot on national TV, I think we can give her theology a little bit of space. We don't have to maximize being a jerk all the time to be correct. As the great theologian SpongeBob SquarePants said, it's Christmas, don't be a jerk. So I think she probably is a Christian. But then what about around him? People standing up at the memorial with rosary beads in their hands. Charlie Kirk was not a Catholic. He was not going to be a Catholic. Of course, now Candace Owens, Mike Knowles, and others were saying, well, he was close to being a Catholic. But I'm not going to put words in a dead man's mouth. I'll let his own words speak and testify for himself. And he was staunchly opposed and drew a line between Catholicism and Protestantism. So what happens with Charlie Kirk? And the question is, what is the conspiracy floating around him? That's the top three tier. Was it a trans conspiracy? Was it a deep state conspiracy? Was he so powerful like Kennedy that he had to be taken out of the way? So like Kennedy, 3 years later, we could get into Vietnam. The question is, 3 years from now, did Charlie Kirk have to be taken out of the way? Because we are heading towards a terminal point in this nation, and nothing, especially a man with him that had tremendous influence with the younger generation, plus the conservative influence, had to be taken out of the way. If you say, man, that's a mouthful, well, welcome to the new world of trying to sort through all that is going on. There's a lot out there, a lot of speculation. We don't know which is true and which is not. We see that the bullets had inscriptions on them with transgender ideology. Why? Is that true? We also see that there were false or premature suspects in identification. And what about the old guy who eventually was arrested for child porn, but he was the first one running around saying, I did it, I did it, I did it. Interesting. Is it foreign disinformation, propaganda? What is the motive behind it? And then, of course, there's the Israel question. Was it Israel, foreign governments? Was it AI? Some people are saying it was AI. And then there's some people saying, no, he was shot from behind and you can see blood coming out of his ear. No, it wasn't blood coming out of his ear. It was an earpiece. Actually, what it was his necklace. So there's a lot swirling around. So we're going to talk for just a few minutes, not about each one of these, but we want to talk about the things that really kind of stand out to us, things that we think are important. And I want to bring Kevin on board real quick because, Kevin, you and I have been talking about this now for several days. People have been waiting. The Soul Trap community has been waiting for us to talk about this in detail. So I think just as from the 35,000 foot view, what are some of the things that stand out? Not, Israel did it, who did it, why, But what are the things that stand out to you that you go, as the old great gospel hymn goes, things that make you go, What are some of the things about this that make you go,
Well, one of the first things when I heard the type of rifle and then the caliber of the rifle that was used, and then I saw the alleged entry wound, it just did not line up. Now, I have actually fired a Mauser 98 before. A friend of mine had one, a World War II era rifle. He had one that his grandpa had, and I mean it packs quite the punch.
Yeah.
It will create a large cavity, and it did blow through multiple sheets of plywood. That's just we set up 3 sheets of plywood, thinking that would be more than enough to stop it, and it did not. So it went through. So just seeing that, seeing how that went, really had me question what was actually going on there.
Yeah.
And people say that's an easy shot to make, 150 yards with it. But yeah, I mean we're talking a high pressure situation there to try to make that shot.
Yeah.
And then you see the other angles that are coming in, and there's just a lot of just weird stuff surrounding it, and not seeing Tyler Robinson with the rifle.
Yeah.
And him, well, he took it down and put it in his backpack. As far as I know, taking down a World War II era bolt action rifle isn't that easy.
Yeah.
As far as doing it very fast. As far as taking that apart and putting it into a backpack, you're talking a 42-inch rifle.
Yeah.
Fitting that into a JanSport that is what, 20 inches or so.
See, they're saying that when he jumped off the roof that he had it wrapped in a towel. Yeah. I've seen the video. Isn't it amazing? And maybe we'll throw the video up here, post production or something like that. But it's amazing that we have such grainy footage.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's in the towel, maybe it's not, but it doesn't look like, nor does it feel like that he has the gun in his hand. Yeah. He certainly didn't have time to break it down.
How did he get it up?
Okay, the other option that I'm hearing is, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, is that he did have it broken down and that he had it either in the backpack or in his pants. Right. And he goes up. Once he gets up, that's where he uses a screwdriver, puts it together because the screwdriver's right there at the entrance point. He drops the screwdriver, runs over, gets set up, gets set down, waits, takes the shot. Then he runs, has a towel, wraps the towel around it, runs back and jumps off. That's not outside the realm of possibility. It's just when he jumps off, it's hard for me to see. That's a long rifle. I would be interested, maybe the guest that we have on in just a moment could speak to this. Maybe we can just look it up. What is the length, the average length of a Mauser? And on the video, does that man have something in his hand that length?
And to me, one of the things if the picture that we have is the actual rifle that was used, it's a very low quality image. It's grainy, but you look at it, and I don't know if the stock was just painted, if the furniture was painted on there. It almost looks like it's synthetic stock. Meaning, if this is a World War II era rifle that his grandfather had, I don't believe. I could be wrong. I'm not a historian or a war buff. I don't believe they used synthetic furniture or stocks on bolt action rifles in World War II. So it just you look at it, it's black. If you look at just a Mauser 98, that what it could have been. It has like that walnut looking stock and furniture on the rifle. The one that is pictured to me looks like it could have been modified by his grandfather. I don't know. It's very curious to say the least.
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking that up right now. Is there an actual picture of the Tyler Robinson rifle? Because I noticed that as well too. I don't know. I think that what they released. Let's see here. Yeah. So, okay, what they released is not what the initial picture is. So I'm going to send you a link and let you take a look at it, and you can do a little bit of research on this while we're talking, because that's an honest question. I saw that too. I'm like, that didn't come from World War II, and we'll let our guests here speak to that in just a second. But I think sometimes initial things get released, and it gets into the zeitgeist of what we're thinking, because the initial one that I saw almost looked like a stainless steel or a matted steel with a synthetic stock. Yeah. And I guarantee you they didn't have matted steel with a synthetic stock in World War II. The one I'm looking at right now looks a little bit more, but I still don't know if that's a stock footage or not.
That picture right there looks like stock footage, because the one that I saw that all the news outlets are using is that rifle with black furniture sitting in a cardboard box. That cardboard box could have been something they brought on there. I don't know if that was something AP just grabbed off of some stock image somewhere, but it's a very poor quality image.
So the other question we would have about this, and these are just legitimate questions, is this something where we've got unguarded language? In other words, like saying the AR-15, that's an assault rifle. Right. You know, it's an automatic. Well, no, it's not. An AR-15 is a semi-automatic, right? Is this an unguarded, hey, he was shooting a 30-06 bolt action, you know, World War II style. That was his grandfather's. That's different. World War II style, that was his grandfather's, is different than saying a World War II bolt action. So you have to let that kind of play out a little bit. I think that's really important. Well, so there's a lot of things here that we're talking about. I'm not going to get into the Israel thing. I just don't see, that doesn't strike me. The Mossad have many easier ways of killing somebody than doing that. I mean, if they want to get you, they're going to get you in your sleep, man. You're in trouble. I don't think that that's an AI generated picture. I believe Charlie Kirk was killed. The people around him, I think Charlie Kirk was a sheep surrounded by wolves. I think at a certain point, when you get to a certain height, I think Charlie Kirk was trying to do what was right to do. Who the wolves are, I don't know. I know he was surrounded by Catholics, Jesuits. I know he was surrounded by deep state people. I also know that the man was Christian enough and wise enough to start distancing himself from people like Candace Owens, who were going off the deep end. She's a rabid anti-Semite. I mean, there just is, anti-Jewish. So that is a whole nother game that we would have to get into. Today, what I want us to do is let's just talk about the gun, because whether it's us, Alex Jones, Steven Crowder, I think a lot of people are just really concerned about the shot. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. And they're clip after clip. And we're going to play a few clips here of just people going, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. It's not that we're saying it couldn't be that way. But man, it's really, really weird.
That breaking news, political activist and conservative media personality Charlie Kirk shot and killed while speaking at an event in Utah Valley University this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colleen Williams.
And I'm Michael Brownlee. Kirk was a right-wing activist and founder of Turning Point USA, which is a nonprofit advocating for conservative politics on school campuses. It was on tour for the organization at the time the shooter fired from a building more than 500 feet away. Now, this event was being hosted at Utah Valley University. That's about 40 miles south of Salt Lake.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now have acquired proof that the FBI's official story is false, whether knowingly or unknowingly.
I was in line with people for 3 hours talking to all the folks, and they were Christians, and they were happy, and they had families, and they were lovely people. And I started talking to them, and none of them that I spoke to believed that the shooter that they got and have arrested actually did it.
I mean, it sounds like a miracle to me. I've never seen it in any of the training, in any of the internal ballistics, and the penetration demonstrations we've done. I've never seen a bullet act like that. It makes no sense.
I happened to uncover footage before the incident where someone accidentally recorded another guy on a completely different roof that was not the Losi building. There was also another guy who was actually seen running around with a gun in his hand.
Now, once you see that what that official story is, the question is, does that match up? Well, we have somebody that's been a longtime friend, supporter of the Soul Trap. I have spoken for him several times. For absolute clarity and transparency, he is a very intimate and close friend. And yet, I believe he has the technical skill, the biblical insight, and really just the mentality to help us find some balance. Maybe to ask the right questions, because you're not going to get the right answers if you don't ask the right questions. And so Kevin and I both know him, been a longtime supporter. We want to welcome on Pastor Andrew Tucker from Grace Baptist Church in Kentucky. We appreciate him being with us. And Andrew, thank you for taking the time and for having the courage to enter into the lair of the Soul Trap. We appreciate it. How are you doing up there in the great state of Kentucky?
Thank you, preacher. Doing very well. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well,
it's an honor to have you. And obviously, you've heard the conversation we've just been talking about. There are other questions that I think are legitimate to ask. I personally, oh, by the way, that was a dog. Just so
that was a dog.
That wasn't the ATF breaking into his house. So that could still happen. So I think if I were to look at the conspiracy, if I were to guesstimate at what a conspiracy is right now, my gut feeling is that this young man was A, radicalized, and B, had psychological help, and C, probably material resource help in planning, logistics, et cetera, and then 4, people knew that this was going to happen and they were going to take out Charlie Kirk. That's just my initial, if I had to guess at what it was. I don't believe he operated alone 100%. I'm not saying that it was a deep state. I'm not saying that it was Israel or anything else. I think it was something like that. That's a discussion that we can all get into at another time. The real problem that I'm having is this. I'm not a gun expert, but I've been around guns. I've shot guns. Probably the biggest caliber I've shot's probably been, maybe a 10 gauge, 12 gauge, AR-15, which is a 223 round. You can maybe do a blackout, something like that. I've been around hunting. My dad, deer hunter. I've been hog hunting. We used to go dove hunting a lot. I've seen what high-powered rounds can do to flesh. Right. I've also seen high-powered rounds that the inner ballistics reacts weird. I remember years ago when my dad shot a deer, and I remember he shot him, I think it was with a 308, and then way back he shot him like up towards the lung or to the chest area, and there was a piece of the bullet when they were dressing it way back near the rump. It had gone and then boom, traveled down almost all the way and almost came out the rump. And I remember them talking about, just as a little boy, I remember them talking about that. So let me start with you, and I know you're a very humble man, but give us your military background and then give us your specific involvement with the medical field in the military background, and then your current involvement with ballistics, so that we have a picture of why you may have something to bring to the table.
Yes, sir. Well, I started hunting like you were talking about that you did with my dad when I was, I guess, 8 years old. That was long before I joined the Army. I was shooting shotguns, 12 gauges, and 308s and 32 Winchester Special old lever guns. But in 98, I joined the Army, and I was an infantryman. I was 11 Bravo. And as an infantryman for the first 4 years of my service, I fired every weapon from a M9, which is a 9mm pistol, Beretta, an M4, M16s, a 249 SAW, which is a machine gun, a light machine gun, 240 Bravo, which is a heavy machine gun, 50 cal machine gun M2, and a Mark 19, which is a 40 millimeter grenade launcher that is fully automatic. That's fun. But in my shooting experience in the Army, we fired all of those. I've fired the I can't remember the nomenclature, but the current sniper rifle that is issued to the military, I fired those. It's based off an M14 platform. I fired those. Then after 4 years in the infantry, I reclassed and was a medic for the last 16 years in Afghanistan. I deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. But in Afghanistan, I was the senior medic for our brigade. And so almost every medevac in our area of operations, we were in RC East, went through me. I've seen my share of trauma. I've seen what bullets can do. I've seen what grenades can do. I've seen some of that stuff, what it happens to a body when it is hit.
Okay.
Now going forward, where I'm at today, of course, above all, I'm the pastor of Grace Baptist Church, and
I
that
got to
is my
interrupt.
calling.
You're very humble, but I got to interrupt. You received, just so that we're clear, and I think we should give. Bible says, "Give honor to whom honor is due." You received a very, very special medal from your work overseas. Tell me what that was. Tell the Soul Trap audience what that was.
Yes, sir. The highest award that I've got is a Bronze Star from Afghanistan.
Yeah, that. So you were not going to say that unless I pulled it out of you, but I think it needed to be said, and we appreciate your service. So you're now a pastor, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you've got your own personal experience in the background, you've got military experience, you've got medical experience, and now we've got the spiritual experience of being a pastor. How long have you been a pastor and been in ministry?
So I've been pastoring here for 10 years, and a year before I got here in Washington State. So right at 11 years.
Okay. So I asked Kevin, and we'll bring Kevin on here if you want in just a minute, or whenever you're ready, Kev, jump on. What stands out to you? And there's a lot of questions that we can ask about these other things, but it seems like what we're seeing on the platforms that we're connected with is, how do we explain this bullet? Because anybody that has shot anything knows, wow, it wasn't that he got shot. I think what's throwing people off is the caliber. Would I be right in saying that it's not that you said, hey, he got shot from this angle, that, blah, 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 blah. I think what's throwing people off is you said, hey, he got shot, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, it was a 30-06. And that seems to be when everybody went, whoa, what? Am I right in that assessment?
Yeah, I've got questions about several things.
Okay,
I've got questions about angles and all that. But before we get into that, let me explain. I'm a gunsmith. I've got an ATF license to manufacture weapons and to manufacture ammunition. So I've played around in this realm, and I've been doing this for about 4 years now out here in Kentucky.
Okay.
That's not true. I didn't. I asked ChatGPT to do the math on the angle of that shot. And so I looked at the building. The building on the side that Charlie Kirk was on is a 3-story building. Probably based off of being around some other buildings, there's 10 feet per story. But I'm going to give them extra. I gave them 40 feet to give them just a little bit of extra height.
Okay.
And so 142 yards with a 40-foot drop equals about a 5.4 degree downward angle, which is almost nothing. Over that distance, it's not like he was shooting down to the base of the building. Over that distance, the angle is almost straight on. And I didn't understand that to begin with. When I first saw the impact wound, my first assumption is that it was a 30 caliber round because of the size. It severed that either jugular or carotid, either one of them. One goes up, one goes down. Either one of them would have caused massive hemorrhaging like what we saw. But because of this, the severing of that was my first thought, was it was a 30 caliber round.
Okay.
Now that I look at the angle, I don't know how it could have been a 30 caliber round. I've messed with some subsonics, and just because of the noise, that wasn't a subsonic round. By the way, subsonic is a bullet that travels less than 1,100 feet per second and doesn't hit that sonic boom.
So, well, let me ask you this. could the noise have been amplified by the sort of amphitheater? In other words, could it have been a subsonic round? Is a 30-06? Would there be such a round as a subsonic 30-06 round?
Yes, there is a round, a subsonic 30-06 round. It's easy enough to hand load too. And I guaranteed that because of that amphitheater, it would have been louder down there. But there was still a crack to it. That is that rifle, that bullet breaking the sound barrier. It's just unmistakable.
Okay, so obviously we're having to get into the nitty gritty. What is it about the wound? What would you? And I know that this is speculation, but what would you in a battlefield, if you're the medic, you're the head medic, you get radioed, one of our soldiers has been hit with a sniper rifle round to the neck, we're bringing him in. And that's all you heard. What would you have expected to see? Or had you, in other words, let me rephrase that because there's a time element. If you were on the battlefield and you were across that little courtyard and one of your soldiers, pow, you heard that sniper hit and they started yelling for a medic and you knew immediately that my guy just got hit with a sniper rifle and they're yelling somewhere in the neck region. As you're running, what would your mind be processing, expecting to see when you got there to the trauma? And how would you start to triage what you were expecting to see?
So it depends on the angle. If it was coming from the side and went through the side without hitting bone, it's a completely different wound than it is coming from the front to the back. Side to side, you run into issues with your with breathing, your windpipe. You also run into issues with bleeding your carotid or the veins in your neck. Front to rear, you run into even more issues because of the spine in the rear. And bullets do different things. There's several different kinds of bullets that are available, but you run into neck damage no matter what. And if you're talking a sniper round from straight on, I would be expecting a massive exit hole. With one exception, and I kind of looked at that a little bit from this. What I've heard is the surgeon's report, and I haven't read the full surgeon's report, but I've read bits and pieces from people who say they've seen it, and they said that two reports. One, that the bullet hit the spinal column, went down, and then a portion of it came back up and was lodged under the skin. And then the other one is that almost the complete bullet was found underneath the skin.
Okay.
For it to go down like that, a bullet could do that. It is possible, but you'd have to have an angle above 45 degrees in order to get that because of just the shape of the bullet. In order for it to come to do that, it's got to come in at such an angle when it impacts that hard bone, it flips the point of that in a downward angle.
Okay.
It'll easily spread it out side to side. That's a possibility, and blow out both sides, or go straight through and take chunks of bone with it. But in order for it to go down, you're looking at a much steeper angle for the most part.
That's problematic. Yeah, that's problematic, isn't it? I mean, I don't think that there's any way, if the report comes out, and see, we're still kind of in flux, but if the report comes out, if the report comes out that entire bullet was underneath the skin up there, I'm sorry, I can't believe that. I cannot fathom that. Now, if it comes out that the bullet went down and a piece of it, then that's what you're seeing blow back out or came back up. Man, that's one in a bazillion, but sometimes those kind of things happen. But normally you would expect at 140, 150 yards, that thing, in my opinion, should have just ripped right through him or anything else that was sitting there. If it was a
There's
30
almost
six.
no loss in energy from muzzle out to about 300 yards. Almost none with the 30-06. And so, yeah, my expectation would be that it would have blown right through. There is such a thing as a frangible round. Typically, they're made out of aluminum, very, very light, not terribly accurate over about 50 yards because they're so light that when it hits, it literally busts into a bunch of different pieces. But if that was the case, the surgeon couldn't say, "Hey, we found the bullet." He'd find little shards all over.
Okay, could the surgeon, because he's again unguarded, be finding a chunk of that bullet and going, "Hey, that's the bullet," when what he really means is, yeah, that's a chunk of it, but the rest of it went down. I mean, is that a possibility there?
Sure, it's a possibility. Without seeing it, you'll know. I don't know that we'll know, but yeah, it's a possibility.
We haven't really seen. Has the full surgeon report been released?
I'm not sure if it has or not.
Yeah, because I'm what we're basing that off of right now is I'm not even sure if this is interviews with the surgeon.
Yes.
Okay, maybe we can put that in and see what the surgeon's actually saying. Okay, so let me ask you this: there's theory running around that, there's the craziest theory is that I've seen is that he was shot from underneath, and that's an exit wound. I don't see that particularly.
I don't see how that would have happened.
Now, I did initially when the first videos came out. I recorded it on my phone because I knew they were going to be scrubbing that, so I have the video on my phone.
I did too.
I've watched it ad nauseum more than I wish I had. And to be honest with you, one thing that has crossed my mind, and they're saying no, but I had thought that it's possible, not body armor, but a plate, that he was wearing some kind of protective underneath, like a plate, and that it hit and it caught a part of that, but then there was the up. I don't know. But when I look at the replay, it looks to me like he's getting hit from the front, because the initial reaction to me is his body like that. There's a concussion of his body like that, kind of coming back. Mm-hmm. Now, the theory is that he got shot from the side, or blah, 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 that kind of thing like that. And I just don't imagine, if you got shot from the side, it feels like to me that your head would be coming over, your body would be coming over, and it would be going forward. He doesn't do that. Whatever hit him, he felt the concussion, and I think he was dead that almost that instant. I think his spine was set, and he just froze up, and then the body just went over. As you're looking at that, what is your take as far as the direction of the shot? Do you think that it was a dead-on shot? Do you think he got shot from beneath the chair? What's your thoughts?
So I don't think it was from below. I don't think that's a possibility. I don't think it was an exit wound from the side, because the entrance wound would have made a mess too.
Okay, so let me pause right there. Let me pause right there, because that's something that's very interesting, because everyone was like, no way, that's massive. But explain to us from your medical background and from what you've seen, and why would that entrance wound, because a lot of people go, no, an entrance wound is usually clean, and it's the exit wound that's out. But why would that have been such a debacle on the entrance wound there?
So the entrance wound typically is small, much smaller compared to what the exit wound is. But that entrance wound, it creates a ton of damage to the tissue around that, around where it hits. Figure a bullet traveling at 3,100 feet per second. If I could make this pin travel anywhere near that, when it hit anything, you'd have instant bruising, instant bleeding, even if it didn't penetrate. And a bullet is designed to penetrate.
Right. And then if it hit that carotid or jugular vein, it would be even more than just a regular wound, because I would assume there would be an internal ballistic pressure that blood, is just now just boom streaming out. So even if it didn't kill him instantly, with that amount of blood loss in that amount of time, I don't know how you could have survived. It would have been, even if you'd have had surgeons on site, it would have been a horrific job to try to salvage that.
The only way to take care of that is to clamp it ahead of time. He had about 7 seconds worth of blood. Once you sever that carotid, you've got about 7 seconds worth of blood, and your body bleeds out.
Really?
I truly think that the bullet actually severed his brain stem, just from the way that he reacted. That clinch, you can't fake that. I think the bullet severed his brain stem, which would mean he was dead before he even felt the shock of that of the bullet.
Wow.
But if it didn't, he didn't. By the time he was on the ground, it was too late.
Wow. Okay, so that's a traumatic wound coming in the front. So and when you watch the shot, you watch his initial, even before you see the blood, just the initial blow, the tension, it feels like it's hitting him from the front. That's my take. What's your take on it? Would you agree with that? Maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that. You've seen a car in a wind tunnel when they test the aerodynamics, and they've done commercials. Now I'm going to date myself, but back when we used to watch regular TV, and had commercials, and they'd put the car in the wind tunnel, and then they'd add water to it so you could see what happens to it. At the very front of that vehicle, the water starts breaking up just because of the speed. It happens the same thing with the bullet. As the bullet's flying forward, there's dispersion of the air in front of the bullet and way behind it too. But in front of the bullet, I think that's what you see when you see his shirt blowing up. I really do think you're seeing that air dispersal, because it's just a millimeter before it hits the neck. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think there was a plate. Is it possible? There's a lot of things possible, but I think it was pretty much straight on. And
go ahead.
Oh, and all you saw was just his shirt reacting to that transfer of that violent transfer of air as the bullet was approaching.
Air and energy, or sort of a reciprocal energy as it's hitting him.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then the question comes down to, we can agree, well, let me, before I get to trying to draw some conclusions, the other thought that Kevin and I talked about is, and my initial thought was, man, that's a really tough shot, blah, 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 blah. But if you've got a scope on that thing and you're at 140 yards, what would it be like taking a shot with a scope at 140 yards with a really heavy rifle that's going to be real stable? Is that an impossible shot for a novice to make? I mean, what's your take on somebody who says there's no way he could have made that shot, or it would have been miraculous shot under pressure, blah, blah, blah? What's your take on it from that?
So I've got a picture of the rifle in the cardboard box, the one that Brother Kevin was talking about ahead of time. And the scope on there is a pretty standard hunting scope. It looks like it's probably got a 3-to-9 variable on the back of it with the magnetic magnification. And so anybody with a little bit of training.
Hang on just a second. Hang on, bro. Just so because not everybody understands the language.
Yes, sir.
When you say a hunting scope, take the moment, break down to me a difference between a hunting scope and a military scope. And then you said like a variable, 3-to-9 variable, something like that. Mm-hmm. The only numbers I know are 1611. So
And that's the best one, by the way.
That's the best one right there. So give us a real quick idea of what the difference between it for a layman, what you would expect to see difference in a hunting scope versus a military sniper. And then what did you mean by those numbers and those variables?
Sure. So the objective, the piece at the very end of the scope, the glass that you're looking out of, the larger it gets, on average, the farther and clearer the picture is that you're going to see. A hunting scope, you just don't need to look that far or that clear, unless you're, out in out in Montana shooting elk from ridge to ridge or something crazy like that. An average hunting scope has got a smaller objective lens on the very end, and is just designed, 200, 300, 400 yards. That's your basic shot for hunting. 400 is actually even pushing it for your average shooter. And then I said the variable, the 3 to 9 is the most common. There's a bunch of other variables, but it's the magnification. So as I'm looking at the computer screen here, this magnification is 1 time. And so the bigger, the larger, the closer I get from my perspective is how it would increase. And there's actually on this scope, it looks like on the back of this scope, there's a dial, and you could twist that dial and it would change the magnification. And I don't know that it's a 3 to 9, but that's the most common is 3 power to 9 power magnification.
Okay. Do we know 100% sure from where this picture came from, Kevin? Because they're saying that's the picture, but why would it be in a cardboard box? Who took the picture, and how did that get circulated? I mean, is the FBI owning up to, hey, that's the gun, that's the picture?
Well, the picture was obtained by the New York Post. It could have been an evidence box they're placing it in. That's my only speculation. Now, I don't know that they've come out and said, this is the gun. They've given the type of rifle, they've given the round, but I don't know if they've actually claimed that picture as evidence.
Okay, so let's go back then, brother, and I appreciate you letting us, pick your brain back and forth. Here's my question. Is that an impossible shot for a novice to make? Is it unreasonable to think that this guy could have made this shot and him not necessarily being an expert shooter?
It's a difficult shot. It would take somebody a little bit of training to be able to do it, or very lucky. And the reason why it's difficult is, number one, those Mauser 98s are cold bore, not extremely accurate. Cold bore, it means there hasn't been any rounds fired through it. Typically, when you're shooting for accuracy, you want a warmed up barrel, not a cold barrel, because the harmonics will change and your point of impact, point of aim will change. In other words, where you're looking and where the bullet hits could be different. And then as far as the neck shot, so my initial thought was that he was much higher up and it was a much steeper angle that he was shooting at. And so I was talking about how the bullet would rise on a downward angle and all that. At this angle, it really doesn't make that much difference. There would be a little bit of drop, and it'd be 1.5 inches, maybe. Well, no, I'm wrong. It'd be less than 1 inch drop at that range for most of your bullets. There's a little bit of difference depending on which bullet inside of the 30-06 case that you use on how much it would drop. But it'd take somebody who knew a little bit about what they were doing. Does it have to be a trained sniper? No, not at all. Somebody who spends a day and a half at a range could easily figure this out and get it done. So there's a little bit of training.
A young man who's maybe grown up, I think his dad was sheriff, something like that. So maybe a young man that's familiar with weaponry, doesn't have to shoot it all the time, but it doesn't require a CIA spook to make this shot.
No.
It does require intentionality, though.
Very much. Yes, sir.
Interesting. As you looked from the building and things like that, here's another thing that I looked at. Let's say it's not, okay, so in my opinion, and I believe this is accurate, I believe that there were multiple shooters at the assassination of President Kennedy.
Yes, sir.
It may be that Lee Harvey Oswald actually was there as a shooter and thought he was in part of a team and didn't realize he was the patsy. Okay. But there were other angles when you looked at the shooting that, to me, give away the fact that it didn't come from the Texas School Book Depository.
That magic bullet just could not do what they said it did.
Couldn't, and I'm really praying that we don't have another magic bullet issue with this one. My situation with this is that when you look at the Charlie Kirk shooting, we've already established that it's rational. The blood that you're seeing is an entrance room. It seems to be rational that he's getting hit from the front. Okay, when you look at the landscape, do we see anything? And Kevin, we can put this up on screen. You have the picture of the building area. I'm looking at the surrounding buildings. From dead on, it doesn't appear that there would be another place for a second shooter to be involved in this, as so far as I can tell. And I'm looking at our sheet, and maybe you see something different, but it doesn't appear. In other words, because when he runs to get off that, I'm not sure that there's any higher. I'm not sure that there's anything. There would either have to be a second shooter with him on the roof, not outside the realm of possibility, but we have a camera up there.
Or further away.
That's what I was looking, but I don't see anything as I'm looking on it. It would be interesting, and let me see if I can bring that. We'll bring that up, Kevin.
Preacher, while you're looking at that, can I make a correction to something that I'd said earlier? Because
go ahead,
you're
man.
just talking made me think about it. He was in an amphitheater, so me saying that building was 3 stories high was up above 3 stories above the amphitheater, which would throw off my angle. When I said the 5.4 degrees was figuring flat ground from the bottom of that 3rd floor. And so it would have been a little bit steeper angle than that, but not a 45 degree.
Okay. So that and see, this is what I love, brother. This is why I love, because we're trying to, and I want to pause here for a second to the Soul Trap community. We don't think that everything is a nail, because we try to be good at a hammer, but we try to be good at a screwdriver, at a power saw, at pliers. And what we're looking for is truth. And I'm going to tell you something that I think is very important. If we sound like just rabid conspiracy theorists, I'm going to tell you what I think, and this is kind of you and me as a preacher now. I don't believe that this is a time of revival. I don't think what we saw at the Charlie Kirk Memorial is revival, but I do think it's a time for opportunity.
Yes.
I think young people are interested. They're open. They saw one of their heroes get killed. And if we just sound like bitter, old, rabid, everything is negative, we're going to have a real problem here. And so I love that correction, man. That's what we're looking for, is exactly, how do we come to the truth? It's just, I mean, I suppose it could happen, but man, it's rough when you think about it,
Yes,
when you think about that 30-06, that's the problem. That's a big round. To just boom, come to a stop. That's a really big round. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, let me ask you this, and I'll kind of say it this way. Have you seen bullets do strange things?
Oh, guaranteed, yes. In fact, I was watching a video just the other day, the one that you had sent me. And he was talking about taking tracers out and shooting tracers, and watching them bounce all over the place. Tracers are a little bit different than a regular bullet, in that they are actually designed to do that. But yes, I remember shooting tracers at night, and they literally go bounce all over the place. So yes, I've seen bullets do some odd things.
Yeah. I'm looking at the map right now. There seems to be one other building, and I don't know if we can bring the map up, but if there seems to be another building, and it's possible that it could have been over his shoulder. In other words, over the shooter's shoulder to the shooter's right is where it would be. And that's
so is
possible.
it farther back then?
Yeah, it would be farther back, and I think possibly a little higher.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. I'm not sure if I can get this image to you. Did you send the image to him? Oh, here it is, right here. Okay, can you see the screen, Brother Andrew?
Yes, sir. I sure can.
Okay, so if you look at where Charlie Kirk is, right there, that's that center circle right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as you pull out, obviously it's in the amphitheater. As you pull out to the right, to the up and to the right is where, right there, that square right there, that's where they're saying that he shot from.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you go up into the left just a little bit, there is another building complex right to the left in front of that wooded area, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Come back, go up just a little bit, right there. There is room, and you can look on the satellite image, there is a building right there. And that could be. It's further back. But
Yeah.
to me, man, the shot seems like when you play the shot back, like it doesn't seem that far away. See, that's the other thing you would run into. You can put the shooter further back, but now you're going to change the auditory report of that.
Yes, sir.
The report of that rifle is going to be different now. But to me, when I've played it back, the report of the rifle that I hear is bang, it's right on top of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel. So it's one of those things where you get into a catch-22. You can stick the shooter further back, maybe another 100 yards, but another 100, 150 yards is going to really change the dynamic of the audio sound coming, especially because it's not just sound coming, like you said. There's an amphitheater. It ducks down. I don't know what the grade down of that amphitheater is,
right.
But the further back you have now, that sound is going to travel over top, whereas I think the sound sounds right up on top of them. Does that make sense?
It does. You can't go back. You can't go too high because that overhead that he was underneath an awning and it had a drop. So you can go up a little bit. The farther back you go, the higher you can go.
That's right.
You can't go a terrible amount high. Having been around some snipers, if a guy were a professional trying to take this shot,
yeah,
he would have not have been from on the roof. He would have been inside the building with an access through a window, and he would have been back at least one room, probably two rooms, where he's shooting through doorways. And the reason behind that, twofold. Number one, all the noise is stuck in the building, and so down there you don't hear it. Secondly, you don't see the flash. And so it's harder to give away your position where you're shooting at.
So that's an interesting. Okay. So that's where that military comes in. So let's play devil's advocate, Brother Kevin. You jump on here with us. And I appreciate, this is as much. There's the picture right there, man. If we can get that picture, that's the one we're looking for. And guys, I appreciate you being patient with us because we're researching while we're talking to Andrew. So that's the building right there. Can you throw that picture up for us to see? Okay. See, brother. Okay, see, Andrew, see where the square is on the right?
I do.
That's where the shooter was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, if you go up just a little and to the left, it's hard to see, but there's another building complex up in there. But you're coming over, like you said, you're coming over top of that building in front of it. See the white building there, Kevin? Can you put your cursor on it?
Yeah.
There it is. So you're
directly
coming over
in front
that.
of where Charlie was.
Yeah, plus you've got the overhang. So the only real way to get at him, I think, from a distance is from where that square is. And like you said, you had that overhang. So if you go too high, you're going to lose it. If you go too low, you're going to have a building in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing about it is, I think that's interesting is what you're saying is that, like, that's interesting to me because he was wide out in the open. Let's play devil's advocate here, okay? Let's say that this was 100% a spook job, okay? And this kid was somehow part of it. He has to be a
fall guy.
Yeah, he would have to be a patsy. The second question then would be where would the shot?
Mm-hmm.
Where would the shot come from? You hear a single report. There's no doubt about that, A, in my opinion. B, the single report is right up on you. It's not distant. C, it is the only problem I have so far with this is you telling me that it was a 30-06.
Right.
That's where everybody goes, I'm sorry, come again? But I mean, even his fall, even him clinching up and going over, that it seems, I'm just not sure, where would you put the spook? Where would that happen?
You couldn't go any further to stage left. You couldn't go any further stage left than there because if you can see that building that it shoots right over top of,
Yeah.
there's that story that when I get by the looks of it would block his vantage point.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could come anywhere stage right. Any of those buildings, to me, anyways, to the untrained,
Yeah.
it would look like you could have somebody in there.
You could. You just have to get at his. You'd be shooting. Yeah.
So I have a question about that. Was Charlie in the middle of that amphitheater, and was he facing straight out where the shooter? So basically, almost straight on to where the kid was up on top of that building.
I believe so.
I believe the circle's a little bit misleading. I think he was in that area, but yes. Okay, see where the point is coming out? I believe he was looking straight out that way. Yeah, right there.
So unless the cameras were reversed, and I don't think they were, I want to say that the entrance wound was on his left side.
Yes.
And so that rules out any of the buildings on the right-hand side if he's facing out that direction. Yeah. It could put in play if there's buildings that we're not looking at off on the left-hand side that are maybe farther back. But again, you're talking an elevation issue, and now you're talking a weapon choice issue too, because that round didn't penetrate still. So you've got to have something that is slow enough to dump whatever energy is left into his body and not pass through.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Here's a $64,000 question. I know the answer to it already, but if you're going to go conspiratorial, what you would have to have is you'd have to have that young man, and he's on the roof, and it's irrelevant what he shoot. In other words, he's your guy, and you tell him you're going to get up there and shoot Charlie Kirk. So he's going to take his shot. It's irrelevant whether he hits Charlie Kirk or not, because now conspiratorial, there is actually a second shooter in a building off to the left, or in a concealed position off to the left, and it would have to be almost a fully suppressed, low-level weapon, low-energy weapon, right, that hits Charlie Kirk, and that's the kill shot. And that kid may very well have fired a shot, but who knows where that round went, and it's irrelevant. That would just be icing on the cake. The real shooter would have to be off slightly to the left, concealed in a building, or concealed on a building somewhere where nobody can see it, and it would have to be a suppressed round and a low round. Is that a possible shot to make, looking at it from right there? Can you have a suppressed low-level round that would do that kind of damage?
Yes. So there's a few of them that I've worked with that are, the ammunition portion of the world has grown leaps and bounds over the last 3 years. And there's a couple of weapons right now, a couple bullets that have been designed specifically for longer range subsonic shooting. I think it is a possibility. You'd have to have a very good shooter. I think it would be a possibility. I think probably the hardest part of that, and it's not impossible, would be timing the shots so that the bullet hits there around the same time that what's his name, Tyler, shoots from the rooftop, because the timing is perfect.
Yeah, because as soon as you hear the report, he's hit. And if you had a sniper, and unless you had a connection between Tyler and the true sniper, there would be no way for that second shooter, the true shooter, to be able to time that. I mean, his reaction would be too slow. You would see at least a 1 second differentiation.
Yes.
And you don't see that. You see instantaneous. Yeah. So for that,
it's not impossible, but it would be difficult.
Right. So for that theory to work, the second shooter would almost have to be in direct communication somehow. Okay, now watch this. He would have to be in direct communication somehow with Tyler.
Yes.
So the only way for those two to be in direct communication as to when they would take their shot, and here's where people are going to go down the rabbit hole. I'm preempting it. If they're not talking radio communication, it would have to be somebody on the ground level giving some kind of hand signal so that both shooters would be aware now's the time.
Yep. The FBI, I believe, now, Brother Kevin, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they have said that there was a spotter in the crowd now.
Yes. Yes, I heard that as well.
Okay. I've not heard that.
People, I mean, they had a guy that was arrested. He said that he had just caused a distraction so the shooter could actually get away. And so there's been several people that have been linked to this, but I don't know if they actually had an official release of this is who it was and this is what they were doing. Yes, to my
I'm not seeing it, man.
Well, don't quote me. I didn't stay in a Holiday Inn.
No. I'm looking because they'll hide stuff. You don't know. Let's see here. I'm going to try to chat GBT it real quick. Was there a?
I actually had a question about the ammunition too. They claim that he engraved on the casings. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would imagine that he probably did that himself, probably using like a Dremel or something, and not necessarily like a laser engraver or anything like that. If you were to engrave such a high pressure round, what is 30.6 is like 6,000 psi or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you were to engrave using like a Dremel or some sort of rotary, you're cutting that casing thickness in half. I mean, what are the chances of like a catastrophic, like out of battery failure when you're doing something like that, firing such a high powered round?
So out of battery, it'd have to have some kind of an ignition. It's possible, and it's probably more possible with the engraved brass, but it wouldn't be a guaranteed thing.
Okay.
Once you load the round into the chamber of the barrel, the brass doesn't help you at all. The brass is just there to hold everything together until it gets into the chamber. And then once it's fired, the brass expands to match the steel of the chamber, and that holds all of the explosion in there.
Right. Okay.
So it wouldn't have affected it.
It could have caused an out of battery, but it's unlikely. You have to have some kind of ignition source. And most of the time when you see out of battery firing, you've got a very hot weapon, not a cold weapon.
Right.
Okay. So I'm looking at, there's nothing specific. However, they're saying the fact that authorities have not ruled out additional assistance suggests they are keeping multiple lines of inquiry open. The record doesn't show that the FBI has supported or confirmed the spotter in the crowd theory. If a spotter existed, it's not one that the FBI has publicly acknowledged or confirmed, at least not yet, based on available statements.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, we're scratching it all. You know, it's so funny to me because this entire thing to me, and I suppose I don't want to make it oversimplistic, but it really comes down to if they had said a 223 round, right? If they had said maybe even a 308 round, you know, I mean, now you're starting to get up there, but if they had said anything, but the fact that they said a 30-06,
yes, sir.
A, and B, the surgeon talking like, hey, we found the bullet
right
up there. Those two things right there are really problematic. That to me is, you know, I know you got the plane. I know people think this and that, but if they can somehow come up with some kind of rational explanation for that, I think you have to go, okay, the conspiracy now is the transgender cult conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Who was helping what was going on there? But if they come up and say, yeah, we found the whole bullet, and you're going to tell me, well, he was just a man of steel, you're left with one of two options. Either they're flat out, something is not adding up, it's a lie. The other option is it was a miracle of God to stop that bullet, because let me ask you this from your military background. If there were people behind him, and there were people all around,
mm-hmm.
if the bullet comes through, even if it breaks apart, could it hurt, kill, wound other people behind you if that happens?
You bet. Yes, sir. Sure could.
Okay. I mean, so there is that option that, okay, God stopped that bullet from wounding anyone else.
I believe. So I'm a cessationist, but I believe God can do whatever He wants to. So if God designed that, I couldn't argue with that. But when you've got the world claiming that calling on a miracle, I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I like to call myself I like to call myself a flexible cessationist. I'm a cessation. I'm a dispensationalist. I'm a little flexible here and there.
Yeah.
Well, listen, brother, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you just spending time with us. And I think I don't know that we've come up with any answers. I do think we have cleared up some things that people were getting confused about. And I do think we've got some honest questions that need to be answered. Why are they not being answered right now? I don't know. Maybe the FBI is doing a big, hey, cover your butt thing. We just don't want to put anything out because we don't want to get bit in the butt on the way back, you know?
Yes, sir.
I don't know what's going on. I think there needs to be some real answers. The autopsy that has to be released at some point, if that doesn't get released, it has to. I'm almost positive it has to.
If they did one.
If they did one, that's an interesting thing. Wouldn't you? I would think they would have to, wouldn't they, on a murder, something like that? Maybe, I don't know.
It was very, very quick from the time that his body went to the hospital to the time that they were having a funeral. If they did one, it was quick. I of course, I'm not a medical examiner, and I've sat in on one autopsy in my entire life. So I don't know that I could tell you all of the ins and outs of an autopsy, but it seems very fast.
It seemed very fast to me, too, when he came home. I mean, they embalmed him. I'm not sure how quick that happens, but I mean, they got him embalmed and back quick. Like I said, you know, I know that there are some people that are going to watch this. I know some of the soul trappers are going to watch this and go, how come you know this is fake? You know, hey, we're just trying to ask sane questions and connect the dots. We're trying to find out what the dots are. I'm not 100% sure that we know what the dots are to be connected yet. That's how deep I think this thing runs.
Can we mention one more thing, Preacher?
Yeah, go ahead.
The angle that Charlie fell. So that's another issue that has been brought up. If he got shot from the front, why is it he clenched up and then fell to the side? And I was watching it. I like you, I recorded it on my phone, and I was watching it again this morning early because I was up early, and I think it looks like there's a back to that chair. It's a low back, but I think there's a back to that chair.
There is,
and so that energy could have pushed him back, and then just because he has a small back to that chair, the only way his body could have gone is to the side. I think that's a possibility.
That makes sense too, and wouldn't help us with the medical side. If it hit his spinal cord when he clinched, wouldn't the muscles, everything, he's super tight now, he would have been tight as he was going down?
Very much, yes, sir. And it may be possible to fake that, but I don't know how you could fake it. Nobody wants to fall and hit their head. You're gonna twitch. You're gonna move to protect yourself a little bit.
I got another quick question while we got you. I don't want to keep. So we had somebody bring this up. So how come when they're showing him being hauled to the car, that two-part question, he's limp and they're just running with him and just almost kind of throw him in the car. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you be more careful with him? Well, I'm going to let you answer it from a military medical standpoint, but I would assume, you know, time is of the essence, things like that. Him getting bruised or bonking, you know, his shin on the car door, that's irrelevant. The second question is why didn't we see just this massive blood trail as they're running with him, just this massive blood going everywhere? And I would assume that the security that he had, I know that they had some military training. I'm assuming this. I don't want to pad your answer, but I'm assuming that they're packing that wound the instant they got to him, whether it was a handkerchief or whatever it was. Can you speak to that just a little bit from your background? A, the question was, why weren't they more quote unquote careful with him? And then B, why wasn't there like this just, and maybe it's Hollywood, but why wasn't there just big sprinkler bloodstream following him as he went?
Sure. Well, first of all, we talked about that his whole body would have clenched up. that would have lasted a second. It wouldn't have lasted long because you don't have that brain control anymore. You strain and then immediately relax. So by the time he hit the ground, he would have been limp.
Okay.
And the answer is you do it as fast as possible. You pick him up, you throw him over a shoulder, you do whatever you can to get him to treatment fast. Especially a shot like that. Again, I said, I believe it's 7 seconds worth of blood pumping out of that hole, and you're just out of it. So that plays to there not being a stream of blood flowing down as they're carrying him. But I also agree that they put some kind of compression on that wound as they were carrying him.
Okay. So they grab him at that point. Even if you think he's, with your training, it doesn't matter. You do everything you can to fight. They run with him, throw him in the car, and off they go.
Yeah.
Second of all, the reason there probably wasn't blood everywhere, all over everything, is because when he fell over, that blood was going out, and then they packed that immediately. And we really don't get a good shot of his shirt and clothing and things like that as he's going. But they would have packed that and tried to stop that blood almost immediately.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One thing that I haven't seen, and it's just a question, is the floor where he fell onto. There would have been a massive amount of blood right there. And maybe because of the gore, they haven't shown it. Or maybe they've shown it and I just haven't seen it. But there would have been a huge amount of blood there.
Come on, screen.
What they did do with the floor, though, is the very next day, they paved over top of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, it could have been them because of the blood stains that was there. I don't know if it was grass or gravel or what exactly the floor was there. But whatever was there is gone now.
Right.
Yeah. It could have been
almost enough to make you question what?
Part of me goes to like Waco when they came in there and scraped off the top, 2 feet of soil to get all the evidence out of there, and then there's nothing left behind. So I don't. That's just me being weird, I guess. That's kind of a strange thing that they wouldn't leave that for more investigation, given how much is still unanswered.
Well, I also think too, and this is a legitimate question that I have, for an assassination scene, it was peculiar to me how little security that there was immediately afterwards. I mean, you would think that there would have been just once after the announcement, you would have think that there would be dozens and dozens of cops around that where he fell. They would have locked that thing down, and that they would be combing through and looking through. Same thing with the top of that roof, that you would have locked it down. I mean, there's a couple of streamers there that say do not cross, but you can get up there now. I just watched a video of a guy who got up there and said, "Hey, it's not hard to get up here."
Mm-hmm.
That was something that was peculiar to me, is that it was like there was no cops. Even the producer who took down the camera, I think he was genuine. I think he was trying to, but there were people that were walking up taking hats.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, listen, it was not a police supported scene. I think it was campus security that was initially there. He had everybody that was protecting Charlie Kirk was going off with Charlie Kirk. You know what I'm saying? So I can give the benefit of the doubt, but that does strike me as peculiar. And I think what we're going to come down to at the end of the day, this whole thing is going to be put to bed. It's going to be put to bed simply like this. If you can give us even a close to rational statement as to where that bullet and what it was, then you have to go, all things being equal, there's no other smoking gun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was a smoking gun at 9/11. When you got 2 buildings that come down with exactly the same way, all of the smoke popping underneath of it, and Building 7 come down, no crash wreckage at the Pentagon, the smoking guns, they are day one. It's not there yet, but I feel like if we don't get this cleared up, then I feel like some of these other, maybe not dots, then they start to become dots.
If they treat this like the Epstein files. It's coming out, then
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It really, really is interesting. It will be interesting to watch when we get the full surgeon's report, when we get some of this information back. I want to come back and have you back on. I appreciate you taking the time with us. It was great information, great insight. And I think it's a balanced approach that we've had today. And that's really what I wanted to do. The main thing I don't want to lose in all of this is that whatever you think about Charlie Kirk's organization, whatever you think about his assassination, I believe that Charlie Kirk was a Christian. I believe that he loved Jesus, and his mission was to get people to Jesus. And that's what the soul trap is. We look at different stuff, but fundamentally, we believe that the answers to this life are rooted in Jesus Christ. The answers to this life are rooted in the Word of God. And it's the Word of God in Christ that gives us our anchor. Brother Andrew, thank you so much. Great insight. We look forward to talking to you again real soon. And between now and then, stay safe and stay away from the ATF.
Yes. Yeah. My dogs are fine, by the way.
Good. All right. We're signing off, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, preacher.
Thank you, brother.